Hello. Let's just make sure everything's working. Turn that down. Can you all hear everything? Cool. That's good. So, who we got? How many we got in here? So, this is a little bit different from normal. So, ordinarily, the live hangs every week would be for customers of course enrollees. But this week, I'm hold on. Oh no, that's fine. But this week, I'm trying something a bit different and opening it up to everybody that's signed up to Talking Bass. So hopefully we'll get quite a few more people here, and hopefully it's going to push people to the site a little bit more. So I might make it so that that's the thing every week, and I might actually do two. So I'll have one for customers that's more to do with the actual courses, and then one that's more to do with just general hang. So let's see who we've got. That's up there. Hi, Rick, from the Woodlands, which is where I should have been right now if I hadn't got COVID. So, so the whole trip over to Houston fell apart because I got coronavirus, and so it's now been rescheduled for the 24th or 24th of this month, so 24th of February, and I'll be back on the 2nd of March. So, so if anybody out there is going to be there in Houston, I'm sort of around there house hunting and stuff, so I'll be around for drinks if anybody wants to come and meet up. Hi Kelly, Pascal from Dortmund there. Hi David, Mike. Wow, I've got quite a lot more messages and stuff this time. Good afternoon from rainy Leeds. Hi, Neil. Not been back up to Leeds for a few months now. Where in Leeds are you from, Neil? Obviously, as you'll know, I'm a Wakefield lad. Hi, Ashley. Tommy G. Cool. Yeah, I sent out the email a bit early for everybody. Thanks, Kelly. Hi, Wanda, or Vanda, or however you pronounce it, from Dominican Republic. What month is it now? Oh, weather will be quite nice out there right now, won't it? Hi, Skip. Pascal. Patrick. Matthias. It's cold, you're not missing much. Well, I hope it's not cold when I go out there at the end of the month. Russell turned 40 since he last watched a live stream. He feels old. Yeah, well, I've not done that many since my last birthday. Well, actually, I have, haven't I? It was in June. My birthday's June the 3rd. I was 46 last year, so I'm 47 this year. Hi, Dick's there in the Woodlands. Yeah, I'm staying in the Woodlands. Well, I'm staying in the Woodlands for 4 days. Then I'm going over to Katie for 3 days, and then I'm going to be in Sugarland for 2 days. That's the plan, anyway. Scott Devine wears a Michael Jackson-inspired glove. Yes, he does. Yeah, he's... Yeah, I mean, just in case you don't know why Scott wears that glove, I'm guessing most people know why he wears that glove. He's got that what is it, thingy-myalgia. He never had it when I first met him. It was Scott had not actually been playing that long when I first met him. Scott and I went to music college in 1990. Well, we were both on a post-grad, actually. It was 1998 that I first met him. And I, focal dystonia, that's it. And I left the postgraduate course. I just finished my degree at Leeds, and so I went back to Wakefield, and Scott was there. He was on the postgrad with me. And the bass tutor, who also taught a load of other subjects, had a nervous breakdown. So on the second day of actually being there, my the head of music, who had taught me 5 years prior to that at Wakefield, he asked me if I wanted the job, just taking over with all these. That's where I started teaching, because I taught bass before that, but it was I got thrown in at the deep end, having to teach a load of 16, 17-year-olds that didn't even want to be there. Oral theory. There was like a music tech side of it that I had to do. I had to do the bass lessons, and there was something else, but I just got thrown into it on that day because he had that nervous breakdown. And that was that. So I had about 2 years teaching at that place. And then I left it to go and actually work on, start the cruise ship thing. Actually, I know it must have been a bit longer than that. I think it was just general gigging that got in the way, actually. Can't watch from my mobile, neither from the app. iOS or Android. It should work. I did this last time. It actually worked on... I've not got my phone. Oh, yeah. But it was working. I'll just check this one's working. You're better off watching it on here rather than on the app, though, to be honest, because it's not... the way that I do the live streams on the actual site here is not... it's not specifically done for the app. The app's got a completely separate back end. It's a completely different thing, because this is actually almost like a third party thing that's separate, because I'm doing it via YouTube to this, and so it doesn't work particularly well. But the only thing that you can't do, I've not signed in. Hold on. Oh yeah, I have. Oh, I'll do it later, but it should definitely work. It worked. Somebody said it last time, and then and then they said it worked. Oh, yeah, we've got 101 in. That's good. So, what's been going on then? So, over the past, how long is it? 3 weeks, maybe? Or no, a month. Over the past 3 weeks, I've been doing... Well, actually, since I got COVID, I've been recording all the videos for the new Technique Builder course. And I wrote all the etudes before Christmas. So I got all those... So that's all these. So I wrote all these things. And then I did all the lessons for it. So I did all those just after... in the last 3 weeks. So they're almost all done. I've done all the recording. I just need to do the... editing of the last 40 etudes, so which I know sounds a lot, but it won't take that long. It'll only take a few days. So it's all looking pretty good. So that should be out within the next week to 2 weeks. So it'll be definitely out before I have the America trip. So I'll get that out. And it's something... The thing that I like about this Technique Builder course is that it's something that I think all of you are going to like, because some of the other courses, let's say the sight reading course, it's not a niche thing, but it kind of becomes it, because out of all the people that follow me, only a small percentage of them actually are interested in learning to read. Most people will probably be like, oh yeah, I wish I could read, but but not that many people are going to pay out money to actually buy a course that shows them how to read. Same with all of the topics that I cover, because you have to actively want to learn those things, because they're all proper subjects that I'm teaching. Whereas this technique builder thing, anybody can use. So it should be the kind of thing that you all enjoy, and this will actually be cheaper than the rest of the courses. It'll be more like the ear training thing because it's a smaller course, but it's got 60 of these etudes, and I talked about this in the last live hang, but I'll just go over it again now. It's basically split it's into 2 modules. So the module 1 is pretty much, well, very similar to the technique part of Basic Fundamentals, where I work through all of the aspects of technique. It's just more of a deep dive than the one that I do in Basic Fundamentals. So there's 12 lessons in the first module. Then in the second module, there's 60 of these etudes. And it's divided up into groups of 5. So the first 5 etudes are all based on the major scale. The second 5 are all based on the minor scale. Then it works through, what's it going to then? Arpeggios, and then it goes into like intervals. There's some on just as an example, so one of the scale fragments that we had that I think I looked at, let's pick a really short one. I'll have to look at them. I can't remember the damn things. Actually, no. That's it. So that's just a basic etude. It's very short. That's one of the short ones. So it's just... which you can then just take through all the various keys. So you could move it to F. B flat. Or you could just move it chromatically up. Up another fret. Rushing through it there, but you get the idea. And the idea is that you start off very slowly with these things, just working them up. And you apply all of the stuff that I talk about in the first module. So a lot of it is like the lesson that I released yesterday, which is actually from the module 1 of it, where I'm talking about touch, where I'm talking about playing lighter. And turning up more to actually compensate for that. So when you do something like that, let's say I'm just playing that line. If I was to play that with very hard, the downside to that is that everything gets a bit messy. You end up with injuries because you're pushing too hard. You can't play as fast because you're just not as relaxed. And, I mean, it just... the stamina goes out of the window. There's just so many problems with playing too hard. So you might be amazed by how light you can actually play on your instrument while still retaining all of the tone, all of the other stuff. So you just have to have the volume up to the correct level. So as an example, if you were to take your hand, right, let's say we play an A note, and I think I've probably done this sort of little test on here before, but if you were to take your bass, and you've obviously got to be plugged in, but if you were to take your bass and just plug that A string, and take your fretting hand, and then just bring down that first finger very slowly onto, let's say, the C, right? 3rd fret. So open string, and then when you put the finger onto where that 3rd fret is, you'll start to hear that muted note, maybe a bit of a harmonic. Push down a little bit harder, and make sure that you pick light when you're doing this. Eventually it'll start to rattle, and then eventually you'll get the note. Now don't push down anymore. As soon as you get that, then just hold at that pressure, and you might be amazed at how light you're actually pressing down. Now, obviously, when you fret lightly, you need to pick lightly. And like, you know, I'm talking about the fretting hand there, but it's obviously also and actually more essential to pick light. But the same goes for both hands. If you're fretting too hard, if you're pressing down too much, you know, because stress can do that. You know, you can be on stage, adrenaline's running, you start holding down, or if you're not loud enough, which is another problem, you can start to grip the neck too much, and you start to get pains down here. You can start getting stress in the forearm, and before you know it, your stamina's completely gone. So the whole key to nailing that is to actually just play lighter and just make sure that the volume is up enough that it compensates for that. So when you're playing something like that, the idea is to play it much, much lighter. You can take lines like this, like very, very, very simple lines. You know, just across two strings, like a little bluesy kind of thing. And just build up speed on that. And if you just lighten up in both hands, like if you were to play too hard, you'll start to feel pains in your hands. But the faster you go, the lighter you should be picking and fretting. Higher up. And the lighter you play, the more you can keep going with your stamina. I mean, it's a very simple line, obviously. I could just keep going like that all day, and it's just because I'm playing lighter. So that's what that lesson was about yesterday. But I talk about a lot of things like that in that first module, and then obviously in the second module I just work through all these etudes. There are a whole host of different types. And you don't have to work through them progressively. It's not like, you've got to master the first etude and then move on to the second and then master that. No, you can pick any of these that you want at any point. It's just that some of them might be too tricky for you if you've only just started, if you're a beginner or something like that. There are varying degrees of difficulty. I've tried to put them in a progressive kind of spectrum of difficulty. So, you know, the ones at the end are obviously a lot harder than the ones right at the beginning, but it all depends on what you're having problems with. Like, I've got some of them that are stretching ones. So I'm trying to think of which ones I had for that. There's things like this. Okay, so let's say I'm here. So in that line, I mean, this might terrify some of you if you can't stretch very far, but you've got like this 9th fret up to the 14th fret, and what I'm doing here is using false fingering, which is what thing that you get on sax a lot, where you play the same note but in two different places. So I've got the E there and the E there, so it's a unison. So what I'm doing here is playing A, E, and then the E, E. So we're getting three of the same note. So, and then playing the F sharp, and then the D. So it's very much a Jaco Pastorius kind of line, but one thing that might, terrify some of you if you've got small hands is the stretch there, obviously. And in that first module of the course, I talk about how to maximize your stretch. Not only maximize your stretch, but also to how to cope with things like that, even if you have tiny hands, because you can still play it. There's really nothing on the bass, with a few exceptions, that you shouldn't be able to play even with small hands. And it's all to do with micro shifting. So, for instance, let's say we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 down on this E string, right? Now, I can make that first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. You know, all my fingers can stretch to that. And over time, your hands do stretch. You know, just not. I mean, not that much. There's a physical limit to what you can stretch the fingers because of the size of your fingers. But you know, I can get that okay. Now, that's not relaxed. I mean, relaxed would be that. So it's about 3 frets. You know, you'd have to have gargantuan hands to actually have a relaxed hand, and it'd be covering 4 frets. But the point being, if you work up those notes, you shouldn't have to stretch at all. So I'll just show you what I mean. So if I play that first note, that F, then I go to play the F sharp. Now, you might be able to stretch between those 2 fingers. That's not that much. But what actually happens is that these fingers, as you place them down, they kind of trail behind the ones that you're playing. So as I play that second finger, I could put that first finger right up against it. It doesn't matter because it's not actually the note you're playing, under the note you're fretting behind it. It doesn't matter. Then for the third finger, I've got all 3 of them all, you know, sat there behind it, all lined up. And then to the fourth finger. As long as you use the same finger, you know, that fingering of 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't really matter. You know, you can be wherever. So here, for instance. So I could be using a hand in this kind of span, you know. And I'm still using those fingers, but look, I'm just working up like this. Now, it's an exaggeration, obviously. But the point being that don't worry about, you know, when you're playing, let's say, a natural minor scale. So I'm playing a D natural minor. Let's play a C natural minor scale. So C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. 1 finger per fret. Now, yes, if I'm in a position where I can do all of that with the fingers staying on those frets, then yeah, I will. But it doesn't matter. I can actually play it like this, moving the hand. Like if I use this example a lot. If I play like an F add 9 arpeggio, F G A C F G A C F, right? Huge big stretches in there. But look, I'm not stretching the hand out at all. Watch this first finger. Watch what happens. Look where it's going to. I'm playing the G with the second finger there. But the first finger moves up behind it. I've still got the finger pressed down against the fretboard. Keeps it nice and neat, you know, rather than this. So, and then again, I move up. So I'm fretting it with the fourth finger, but these are just lined up behind. And when I play the F up here, I'm just using the good old thumb pivot. So by using a combination of micro shifts, which is these small shifts that you make with the fingers, and by using thumb pivoting, that I talk about all the time, you know, so the thumb, so you can create an arc. I mean, I have done it before where I've played a full octave on one. Let's try C. Just. I'm not actually moving the thumb. I'm in the same position. I mean, that's a hard one to do, but D. Look at the distance you can move with that thumb. So if you can move a full octave on one string, then moving from C to E is really easy. I'm doing that with the thumb. If you can see the thumb there. In an arc. Another thing that I talk about in that course is the positioning of the hand. Sometimes when people go to play something on the fretboard, they come in at this kind of angle, like pointing towards themselves, when in fact it's the opposite that you should be doing. So if you go to play a C major scale, let's say an A major scale, starting at the 5th fret of the E string, some people will kind of do that, and then they'll be trying to bring the 4th finger over it. And I've had this with students where they're going, well, I can't get that 4th finger over, it won't work. And it's like, well, no, because what you've got to do is pivot round so so you use the 4th finger as your guide. So use that to decide when you're playing on the E string, not the 1st finger. So what you should be able to do is line the fingers up. If you curl them, you should be able to line them up on the E string. Don't worry about one finger per fret. You should just be able to line them up like this. If you can't, and the fourth finger's somewhere up here, it means that you're not curled round enough. With the thumb, that is. So you want to be like this. That way, you can play all these arpeggios that start on the first finger, or the major scales that start on there as well, and all these kind of things. That's not a problem then either. So, like I've said before, there's no excuse with, having small hands. It doesn't really make any difference, because I hardly ever stretch myself anyway. I never utilize the kind of stretch that I think some students think other players are using. You're not stretching. It's all about keeping the hands relaxed, using good technique. I've had students before, I won't name names, but I've had students before where they've actually argued it out with me and saying that, no, it's impossible. My hands are too small. I can't do what you're asking me to do. And I can see that they've got bad technique, that it's a deficiency in technique. I can prove it by, I've mentioned this before. A friend of mine that lives close by is a professional bass player, and he's about 4'9", something like that. And he's tiny, and he's got a full, they didn't even do short scale basses when he started playing. He started playing back in the 50s. And he's got tiny hands, but he plays great. There's nothing that he does. Session work, and he plays in theatre bands and stuff. He can play most things, and he's got tiny hands. So it's all about technique. If you think it's not about technique, then you probably need to work on your technique. And it's all to do with that, to do with moving. I mean, there's some people that'll get annoyed because they're thinking, yeah, but I want to be able to stretch. And it's like, well, you don't need to be able to stretch. I'll tell you some of the times when you do need to be able to stretch. Jacob Storius, Portrait of Tracy. This one. There's that B harmonic. That one. You have to fret the B there at the second fret of the A string and catch that. What fret's that? That's like the seventh. Is that the seventh fret? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sixth fret. So you've got to fret that, right? Now you can do it with a pinched harmonic, but it's hard to do a pinched harmonic in the middle of that. And that's just one of those things. And there's things like, if you were doing pull-off lines, there'd be some of those kind of, well, let's say we were doing that. There's nothing you can do about that because we're having to pull off in a line. Then you need the stretch. So, and that's how my stretch developed, actually. It was doing all that kind of silly stuff. But still, so that's just a few tips from the technique course. Let me just see if we've got any questions. Man, there's way more today. 112 here. Right, so I'm going up to as far as I can. I've missed a few of them out here. Wearing a thumb brace now from putting too much pressure on my anchor thumb. I got to go lighter. Yep. If you feel like you're straining, just it's one of those things. It's a bit like trying to stop saying when you're talking if you actually focus on doing it, on actually not doing it, sometimes that's all it takes. It's taken me a few days. This is Peter. A few days to do the test sample pieces at the end of this for volume 2 of the sight reading course. Is this okay? Damn, it keeps dropping down. Also, is there a sample with the bass on so I can check if I'm playing it correctly? There isn't, actually, but I will be... Now, it doesn't matter if you can't get through that. I would advise you to go back through the lessons and just keep going at them, because I found that what people do with the sight reading course is they work very quickly through all the lessons and then try the sample pieces and they can't do it. And that's because you've not spent enough time on all of the lessons. Like, I would have expected most people to take several months over getting through just one of the levels. Absolute minimum, because it takes ages for the muscle memory to get working. There's no way I would expect anybody to get through that first volume correctly so that you are, that it's worked within a year. I think you should be from beginner. I mean, if you've been reading before that, then that's completely different. But if you're from an absolute beginner, I think it should take a good, well, depends on how much practice you're doing, obviously. If you were practicing a hell of a lot, then maybe 6 months you could get through level 1. But, it takes a long time. I know that from teaching reading. I've had it where I've been teaching someone for a full year in a music college and on certain stuff, and they've still got it all messed up at the end of the year. It takes years to get good. I would say I was able to read okay. I had the skills to be able to read most things within about 6 years of 6 years of playing, but I didn't become good at it for a good 10 years, and that's doing it professionally. So I was able to do professional gigs within the 5 to 6 years with reading, but I wasn't what you would call accomplished at it, able to sight read with absolute confidence. I still had a little bit of like, oh my God, I hope they don't give me something really hard, that kind of thing. But after about 10 years of doing it professionally, it was like, yeah, I felt pretty good about it. But bear in mind, I'm not just talking about reading. I'm talking about absolute sight reading on a gig, not picking up a piece of music and then spending an hour working through it. That's a different thing entirely. I mean, yeah, within a few years, I was able to do that. Isn't it more efficient to leave the fingers on the fretboard when possible? Yes. I mean, if you can't just stretch, then you can't. But I would think it's more efficient to leave your trailing fingers. Well, that's what I was just going through. But you probably said that before I actually did it. Technique course fits after basic fundamentals or after chord tones. It's neither. It's a supplementary thing. I wouldn't put this in an order. It's just you could do it right from the beginning. It's not, so you could do it straight after basic fundamentals. You could do it after any of them. It's not a progressive thing. My courses aren't progressive in terms of the ordering. There is an order I would sort of say is a good order to do. But here's the thing. A lot of my courses, well, all of my courses, apart from the beginner course, are the kind of things that you take on if you are interested in that particular aspect of playing or music. So if you want to read, you do the reading course. If you want to learn all about chord tones and stuff, you learn that. But it wouldn't be that like, oh, well, you're supposed to do the reading course and then do chord tone essentials. Nothing like that. It's very much from that angle, it's very much for people that have already been playing and already have a certain amount of ability, There is room for a course that I will get around to doing that will be a all-round method. I'd like to do one that covers everything from beginner, so that then if you were the kind of person that wanted more of, let's say, a Jeff Berlin-esque academic kind of thing, then you could do that, where it is just progressive from word go. But what you would have to realize is that it would be a little bit more boring for most of you, because you would be reading right from the start. There'd be no learning another one bites the dust. There'd be no tab. There'd be none of that. It would be a very set method for learning to play, and it'd include loads of different etudes and stuff like that. You wouldn't be playing along to drum beats and stuff like that. It would be a reading course that incorporates chord tone, harmonic analysis, all of that stuff. A very traditional way of learning. Working through arpeggios, but you're reading them, It's the kind of thing that people like Jeff Berlin and Joe Hubbard are talking about. That's the stuff that they think should be the main focus, because that's how you learn on piano or on, when you start to learn piano or violin or bassoon or any of these things, you'll have a method that you work through. There'll be like incredibly simple exercises. You're learning to read right from word go, and it's like read this note, and gradually it expands until you're playing, major and minor arpeggios all over the fret, but all over the instrument, but you're reading them, working through these sort of chromatic, not chromatic, but working through these etudes, doing it. And that's what he kind of talks about. But I would like to get one of those done, but it's a big undertaking, to have something from absolute beginner all the way to absolute, very advanced in an incredibly progressive manner. The courses as they are on the site are more for people that are so if you've been playing for a while and you're thinking, I want to learn how to read, well, the reading course is perfect. If you are someone that wants to learn more about harmony or wants to learn how to apply things to bass lines, Chord Tone Essentials is great. If you want to learn about scale construction, Scale Essentials is great. Ear training, if you want to learn how to do ear training, that's great. But it's not like everything's progressive in you do this, and it's just this set of lessons that you would work through. And I do get Jeff Berlin's issues with the fact that there isn't one for bass. There's a big opening there. I think he's trying to do it with his books, but I think there's a big opening there for a methodology, a traditional methodology. Now, I'm saying that, I think most bass players wouldn't even be interested in doing that, because another thing that I think is important is to understand the experience of the experience that the musician is going for, or the student is going for. Now, it's easy to think that everybody just wants to become this great bass player, that can read and can do everything. But there's a lot of people that just do it on a kind of leisure basis, where it's like you take up the instrument. They're not bothered about becoming the next Adrian Farrell, the next, name your virtuoso. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in being able to play classical bar pieces all over the fretboard. They just want to get in a band and they want to play. And that's a completely different experience. And the idea of doing traditional music lessons like you would do classical piano probably would turn off a lot of people that want to play rock bass. So I think that the people like Jeff Berlin that criticize a lot of teachers, he doesn't understand that a lot of students are going more for a certain type of experience where they might learn bits here, bits there. They want the tab for it, but it's not like they don't want to learn, but they want all the easy way of doing it because they're not interested in putting in 8 hours of playing a day or whatever, or not even that, but having the traditional methodology because it's just plain boring, I'm kind of in the middle because I learned piano and things like that when I was a kid, and that was very traditional. And then when I started playing bass, I was basically self-taught up to the point at which I went to music college. And when I went to music college, it was all, more traditional, learning classical pieces and things like that. So I've kind of seen both angles of that. And so I know that I think there is room for both. I think for having just the experience of doing what people do at the moment, because they've got no choice, because there's no standard traditional classical methodology. But it's a rock instrument. That's the thing. And I think that's what some people miss. So anyway, rant over. Maybe a new course on finger yoga. Well, this is kind of what this is. What this technique course is. I've only been using the. Hold on. Thanks. Like floating thumb. Anchor your thumb lightly to try using the right hand without using your thumb. So I talk about floating thumb technique in the course. So floating thumb, in case none of you have seen it before, the best way to describe this, it's hard to do from here because the idea is that everything's relaxed, right? So let's say that you're going for the G string. It's actually easiest to show this on the G string. So lay your thumb just lightly against the D, A, and E strings, kind of like this. So you're going to have your hand kind of in a bear claw kind of thing, if there's any karate dudes out there. So you've got your hand kind of like this, very loose. So it's not a fist like that. It's just this. And the thumb goes at the side. So I'm putting the thumb there. We're not going to play curled fingers. It's just as a demonstration. So it's actually more, like that. So I've got the hand here. And we're going to play on the G string. So just try playing C on the G string. And the fingers come back to the string there. And the thumb is stopping all of this residual noise. Then you just move all of that. Todd Johnson calls this moving the mechanism. So you move it back. So I'm playing on the D string there. So the thumb is taking all the rest of them. And you just follow your fingers around, basically. So if I'm working, that's floating thumb technique. Now, I don't use that often. I do on 5 string and 6 string, but I don't on 4. So on 4, I generally use a movable anchor. So I've got the thumb there, and then I move it across. You see, when I get to I generally only go as far as the A string, and the A string, I pull the thumb back, so it doesn't really matter, because when you play on the G string, the finger's coming back to the D string, muting it. So you can get away with just having the thumb on the A string there, pulling back to mute the E string. Obviously, you don't have to worry on octaves. You just keep your thumb in place. But yeah, so that's floating thumb technique, and it's really good for loads of different reasons. But you can't teach an old dog new tricks kind of thing. I've been playing with movable anchor since I started, so it's really difficult to incorporate floating thumb now that I do, after all this time. But it is good. So if you want to know about floating thumb technique, check out Todd Johnson and Gary Willis. I'm just working down these. How many we got in now? 109, yeah. So lots of comments. So it's pretty good having it here on the site like this. I'm just working down through the comments. What pedals are a must in a band situation? None. There's no. It depends on the gig. If you're playing in a Muse tribute band, then you're going to need everything that he would have. But no, I played. I would say that 99% of the gigs I've done through my life, I've not used any effects at all. There's times when I've took them. I used to have a Boss GT6B that I used to take out with function bands, and I sometimes used that. Very rarely, though. Most of the time, I just go straight in, direct. I don't have any effects at all. I've got a ton of effects. I mean, I've got about, I don't know how many effects pedals I've got in this. I've got about 30 odd sat in over there, and I've got about 10 on my pedal board out there. So I do have them, but it depends on what you're doing. If you're going to be in a metal band or a rock band, then and you don't have like a big Ampeg stack or whatever, it can be useful to have overdrive. Have an overdrive pedal or a distortion one if you're going to be in a death metal band or something. Going all the way back up again. Tommy G says, before his passing, I went to Victor Bailey's home for a lesson. He said there's a point where you just have to play with people. That is true. You get more out of one gig than you would out of a year's worth of practicing in your bedroom, to be honest. In overall musicianship, that is. God, it keeps dropping down every time I get somebody comments. ND says, I think finger strengthening exercise is the most important thing for bass playing. I disagree with that. I've never really done any finger strengthening exercises ever. Basically, you just need to play. But that's where playing stuff that's quite technically demanding comes in. I wouldn't say finger exercises. If you move to USA, you have to pick a sport and team to follow. Yeah, it seems so, doesn't it? And I know nothing about baseball, basketball, or American football. And yes, it's called American football. That's what it is. Football, you kick a ball with your foot. I'm a Leeds United fan, by the way, if that makes any difference to anybody. I'm more into more like combat sport kind of things. I used to do a lot of martial arts when I was younger, so I'm pretty much a boxing historian. So like, I used to have a collection of about 200 boxing videos all the way back to Jack Johnson all the way through, and I'm a big UFC fan, and so I'm into all that stuff. I'm not into tennis. I like snooker, though. But snooker, nobody plays snooker in America, do they? Any advice for someone with arthritis in the fretting hand from Dennis? Play lighter. There's not much you can do. There's nothing that you can do. Arthritis is going to be a problem. So, oh man, because there's so many of you talking, it's like it's so different to what it normally is. Yeah, lower action's good. Play lighter and have a lower action if you're having problems with your hands. ND says, I raised the action because of the fret buzz. You need to check out your relief. So it's not a case of just lowering the action at the saddles. That you will get buzz. What you need to do is set it up. You need to also check your nut, and you also need to check the frets. Don't need frets done in. Like, for instance, right? I don't have a particularly low action on this, but I'll show you what I mean. So basically, first of all, you set your intonation. You set your relief. So that's done with the truss rod, which you'll either have up here or you have down here, like I have on this one. And what that does is changes the bend of the neck, basically, the truss rod in there. And what you don't want is back bend, which comes up like that towards you, so coming this way. So all of this boils down to the fact that you've got the string meeting the saddles here, and then you've got the string going over here. Now think about a skipping rope. If you've got two people with a skipping rope, one at one end and one at the other, and they're doing this, and it's going whoop, whoop, whoop. At both ends, where they're holding it, it'll be really taut, and it won't be moving very much. But right in the middle, you'll have the most amount of, the wave form will be at its widest. So, same thing on a string. So, a string, so the most it vibrates is right here in the middle. Okay, really taut at this end. You can hear how much more taut it is, or feel it, just by picking nearer the bridge and then picking nearer here. You can actually feel it's more taut. So, so what you want on all necks is a little bit of relief in the middle. It wants to dip down a little bit to allow for the wider width of that wave. So in the middle, you want a little bit of relief, not much. So that's how you set it. So once you've done that, just bear in mind also that some people, if they're going to play incredibly lightly, can get away almost with a flat neck, but you will generally want a little bit of relief in the middle. Now, the harder you pick, the more of that relief you're going to need, because the harder you pick, the more that wubba 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 in the middle, you're going to get more of it. So if you play very lightly all the time, you're not going to get much fret buzz at all, because even if it's flat, because there's hardly any movement in the middle. If you pick really hard, wubba wubba, it's gonna buzz around here, right? So you set that first, then you set your action. You don't do your action until you've got that right. Then you can set the action so you can bring it down until it buzzes and then bring it back up a little bit. But basically, I mean, that's a bad way of doing it. You really want to follow the radius of the neck. So depending on what the radius is, some are more curved, some are flatter. This one's got a fairly flat neck. You want to follow the radius of that so that usually the E string and the G string are going to be a bit lower, and the D and the the D and the A in the middle are going to be a bit higher. So you set that. Now, if at that point, let's say that you can get one of your strings and it seems fine, all the way up, and you want to set this to the playing style that you have, you might still find that you got a buzz like this. Now, my fret, I think it's the 22nd fret, is really uneven. There's something's happened to it. So as I work up, nice, just frets out there at the 22nd fret. That fret needs looking at. So even if you've got, everything's set up perfectly and you're playing lightly, you might still get that, and so you'll need it fret stoning. And then you might also have problems with your nut, and that can cause problems as well. So basically, you need, a repairman or whatever to look at your nut, to set it up, figure out whether you're still getting fret buzz, and then they'll look at the frets, fret stone it nicely, and then if you've never had your frets looked at and you've had a bass for a long time, they'll probably be a bit knackered. Your frets are going to be a bit jiggered. So that's, a little bit on that. Let me go back up again. And he says, Mark, do you think it's good to play open notes, or do you think it's better to avoid them when you have the option? Makes no difference. Well, open strings, it all depends on context. So sometimes, I would generally go more for fretted notes, because it's easier to actually transpose things. But someone like James Jameson, he does a lot of bass lines where he's using double bass players will use open strings a lot, because they kind of judge their intonation with them and stuff. So you use open strings when you need to use open strings. For instance, something like that. You're coming off an open string, there's a good reason for it. Or if you need to very quickly get up using open strings to climb up the neck. There, instead of doing that, it was actually easier for me to use the open D to allow me to move. So it all depends, because you can't do that in every key, can you? So there isn't a one-size-fits-all for that. It's all based on context and the line. So this is Stephen. Hold on. Going back up again. Does anyone have issues with index finger much shorter than the middle finger? Mine is, and it forces me to angle my plucking hand more than normal. So people will always have that, where your middle finger is longer than the index finger. So when that happens, I talk about this in the technique course. It's one of the key things in terms of moving across the strings. So that usually determines whether you're going to start on a first finger or a second finger for a particular line. But Oh, and sorry, and also it's the reason that if you start an octave pattern like this with your first finger, it feels a lot more natural than it does if you start on your middle finger. But I like practicing both ways. That's starting with the second finger. I like to purposely practice things starting on both fingers, just so that I'm not going to get screwed up when I actually can't do anything about it because of the number of notes in the line. About reading, writing notation, I'm at the front end of sight reading, and I'm wondering when or how I'll be able to transcribe licks I come up with in notation for timing purposes as I write them in tab at the moment and try them in other keys. But if I come up with a run on an offbeat, unless I record audio tab, obviously gives no real way that I know of. Nothing. The end of 3. Hold on. So you're at the front end of sight. Yeah, you just need to keep going with the reading because you need to get used to 8th notes. So it's all about the 8th notes and the 16th notes there. Like I said, it takes a while to learn to read. I have a short scale bass, 5 strings, so it's supposed to be... Oh, right, okay. Low B string is always going to be buzzy. Yeah. Mark Smo is a Leeds fan as well. Teams in Houston suck. Where are you moving to, Mark? Well, potentially. I mean, we don't know yet. I mean, it's not set in stone yet. I've got to get the damn visa. But possibly Houston. So it'll either be the Woodlands, Katy, or Sugarland. I'm checking them all out this when I go. So I'm going to be going, in a couple of weeks. So again, if anybody's there in Houston and wants to meet up for drinks or anything like that, then I'll be there. Hockey. Yeah, I'll have to get into hockey. That's almost a combat sport, isn't it? Oh, man. If you would look... right, blah, blah, blah. Oh, man, because it keeps dropping down on the... I can't hold the... I wonder if there's a way for me to do that with the... Seeing if there's I can do anything I can do with the comments, because it just keeps dropping down. So if I move back up to find any, I can't read them. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a way around that. Mark, thinking of changing strings to the vinyl wrapped or flat wound type. What would you advise? Which ones is it that I'm... Labella. Labella are often good. I'm having to jump up again. Mark, do you agree Usyk will unify heavyweight division? No, I think Tyson Fury will beat him quite easily. But I wouldn't put money on it. Because he's very good, but he's small. And Tyson Fury is a very good boxer. He's not as good a boxer as Usyk, but he knows how to use his height and reach advantage better than anybody ever. I mean, he really can. He's very good with that, at maximizing his natural gifts, compounded with good, solid boxing skills and a chin. Like one crazy chin. I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare, really. I mean, it's a good job he's not like a concussive puncher, because if it was, then again, I'm trying to climb up the comments. Let's see where I got to. I'm looking for Usyk, so I know that I'm there. Right, okay, there I am. If you have weak fingers, it's good to use something like a grip to squeeze with to start out. My pinky was really weak at first, but this helped. Yeah, I just find it's much easier and less likely to cause injuries to just play and practice the correct things. Indeed's having a lot of broken connection. It's definitely not this. Everything's running smoothly at the moment. Not had any drop frames or anything. How would you approach pentatonic chord tones, etc.? A solo over an A-7. Oh, it's dropped down again. Over an A-7. Where the hell did that go? It's disappeared. £300,000 new home in Katy will be $1 million in California, and you'll be kind of close to Vegas for UFC. And they have it in Houston as well, which is good. Yeah, Mick, that I do that a lot. I now point my right hand thumb up along the neck. Yeah, I tend to have my thumb, hold on, like that more than I do like that. So I'm going along the neck that way rather than there. So it depends on what I'm playing, but sometimes it just naturally goes down. A lot of that depends on your hand size as well. How would you approach A-171 one chord vamp in a jazz funk group? It's all about vocabulary. So one thing you can do to practice, I don't have any way of doing this, but what you can do, so if you've got like a... I wonder if I can put a... So what you can do is, let's say that you've got that A-7. Well, you've got your chord tones. What you can also do is use a Dorian scale, so you make use of that major sixth in there, and the major second. So if you're playing over, it depends on what the feel is as well of the vamp. So you got that. That kind of thing. I should have set up a loop or something for it. But you can just practice playing around individual chord tones or groups of chord tones. So you could just start with... There's the root note. So you imagine... And just try going between the root and the seventh. And then try bringing in the other scale tones around that. So. So maybe go to the fifth. It's really difficult without having something in the background. But so just sort of moving around the individual chord tones. And then it's kind of like working on the actual vocabulary in there. I mean, you could put in, just working up through arpeggios and things like that, using little sequences. Little things like that. Little turns. And just incorporating things like that, intervals, and the arpeggios that are within there as well. So if this was using a Dorian, let's say, you could make use of the A minor 7, but you could also make use of the B minor 7, the C major 7, D dominant 7, and you could use the G major 7. This is still over all this, and experiment with that. So if I was here, so I'm coming up the C major there, down. You take the individual arpeggios from within the mode. So, oops. Stupid fret. So if I was down here, let's say A minor 7, you could come up the B minor 7. This is all the arpeggios within the mode. C major 7, D dominant 7, E minor 7, F sharp diminished, or minor 7 flat 5. So you're basically taking all the arpeggios from the G major scale and playing them over that. I'll try and set up a looper or a chord at some point that I can just play over, and then you'll be able to hear it, because the main thing is to actually hear what these sound like over it, because there's that, and then there's the 9th, there's that minor 3rd. You've got to know what all of these chord tones and the scale notes sound like over the chord, basically. All right, going back up again. Ian says, are the etudes in the course aimed at improving technique or intended to be used in bass lines? No, it's for improving technique, but they've all got kind of melodic and harmonic content to them. So, for instance, as you're working through the arpeggios, there might be something like that. So I think one of them actually does. I'm trying to remember what it is now. No. Does it start on an F? Does it, G? No. I can't remember the damn etude now. There's one that works down through a mode or a key, and it's working down through the arpeggios, just like I was doing. I think I've got confused now with the playing through the Dorian, but so there. If you're over that A minor 7, you can play the B minor and the A minor. So you can bring the E minor into play. And get used to playing through arpeggios in different ways. So like there, I'm playing 3rd root, 5th, 3rd, 7th. You know, coming back on it myself. So that's a minor 9. Try 9th arpeggios. But a lot of it, in terms of the modal thing, is making the most of the characteristic scale steps in there. So in a Dorian scale, for instance, like if I'm on a minor, just an A minor 7, there's no modality to that. But then there's the major 6. That's what gives it that Dorian flavour. It's that major 6 and the major 2nd as well. That's all Dorian. That's a very Dorian thing. If I was to change that 6 to a minor 6th, then that's a more minor, like natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor. There's that 5th to that flat 6th, and then up. in. I've put the putting in that E7 gives it the harmonic minor, but you get the idea. Afternoon from Ryde. Hi, Matt. I'm just down the road. I'm in Sandown at the moment. Just in case you're wondering where it is, I'm opposite the fire station. Does the Dorian scale follow the major scale progression? I don't know what you mean by that one. I'm going back up a bit. I'm going to see what else people have asked. Let me see how many people are in, actually. 96, okay. Back up the list. Why are you moving to the US? I missed the beginning of the broadcast. Tons of reasons, really. I mean, I've often thought about moving to the States. I do have to go over there sometimes because, like, 65% of my audience is American, believe it or not. There's things like NAMM show and stuff like that. But, I'm sick of the weather over here for a start. And every time I go over to the States, I'm always, like, really, like, back into it. Now, I'm not a American fan, a US fanboy by any stretch of the imagination. I know there's loads of things I don't like about it. Just like there is with the UK. There's tons of pros and cons to both of them. But I don't know. We kind of want to change as well, just a bit of a change. And I'm looking to get a. There's a bunch of different reasons, but it's Houston is one of the main ones that I've been looking at. Let me know what days you'll be in Sugarland. Yeah, it'll be it's the couple of days before the 2nd of March, so it'll probably be. Is it a leap year this year? I think it is, isn't it? So it'll be 28th. Probably 28th and then the 1st and 2nd of March. Are you in Sugarland, Jeff? I can't remember. It's good when I get to meet up with people that are parts of the community. Just going back up again. Is there a way to get the comments for the recordings of the live streams? Too often I can't be on live and feel like I miss a lot not being able to read the comments. Yeah, they are there when you watch the re-recording. Sorry, no, not when I put the embedded one. I ran into problems with having the replay of it. So, no, it's not at the moment. There are a few Eddie Bravo, 10th Planet, BJJ in Houston area. What, the gyms? I wouldn't mind, actually, because I started up jiu-jitsu here, but then I had to stop because I got neck cranked, and my neck was completely knackered for about a year and a half, so I had to stop. Sorry if I've missed any of the comments above. Mark, did you ever meet Lemmy? No, I didn't. No. This progression, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, minor. What, you mean the... yeah, that's not a progression. That's just the chords within the key. So, for instance, if you're in the key of C major, then D minor... hold on, it's moved. E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. or minor 7 flat 5, and then back to C major. Yeah, the Dorian mode, because it's the second mode of the major scale. It follows that same pattern, but starting on the second chord. So it'd be minor, minor, major, major, minor, minor 7 flat 5, or diminished, followed by major. So if I'm on D Dorian, E minor, or E minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, C major, and then we finish on the D minor. But in a Dorian, you're not in C major. This is the thing people get confused about. They think that if you're in D Dorian, you're in C major. No, you're in D Dorian. Yes, it's got the same notes, but that doesn't mean anything. So, Doc on Isle of Wight saying schools for kids are a low level. Well, there is that. The schools are pretty naff. The thing with the Isle of Wight is it's a lovely place, but it's you feel a bit cut off. I mean, I'm not from here originally, so I kind of get that a lot more than, let's say, the people that are from here. Like, my wife's from here originally, so she doesn't feel the same about that. But, yeah, you feel a little bit like it's not got the greatest hospital in the world, and it's got, not compared with, I mean, I'm from Leeds, so we've got some really good hospitals up there. But, yeah, it's very quaint. It's a great place to retire to. But we've got kids, like I've got a 1-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old, so... I'd quite like it to, we want a bit more excitement for them as well. I mean, I grew up in Leeds, obviously, like I said, and it was more of a city, or Wakefield, more of a city vibe. So it's, I'm a city boy, basically, even though it's very nice countryside around there. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm not looking forward to with the America thing if we move there. I think the healthcare system seems completely knackered. I've been looking more into that. I mean, obviously, from an outsider's perspective, all UK, we look at America and we're like, huh? It just seems weird. But now I'm going to have to do that. It doesn't make any sense, and it's just weird. I mean, I know Americans have got a really weird take on the NHS and our health system, and everything from what I've seen, they generally all get it wrong. They don't get it. They seem to think that we've got some secondary or some, lower level of and we have waiting lists and all these kind of things. Like, it's not like that at all. And then they start quoting things and saying that, oh, this is the socialist way of doing stuff. And it's like, no, it's not at all. We've actually got a really good health system. And we don't, and the other thing that's going to be a downside for me is that I actually think that Americans pay more tax than we do. But they don't realize it. They think they pay less tax. But I'm going to get hammered for tax more over there than I do here. I know that for a fact. You have all these weird taxes over there. You got a federal tax, you got state, not in Texas, obviously. I'll actually get paid less in Texas, but you got state taxes, these taxes, housing taxes, like all these crazy taxes on everything. And it's completely different in England. So there's pros and cons to it all. In the end, it looks like everything evens out. It's like the sort of expenses and that all even out. I've seen a few people mention that as well, like expats. You've got people from America moving to England, people moving from England to America, and they generally say that it all just evens out. And so you're no better off in any of them. It'll be interesting to see how it is. I'll have a much better take on it then. Probably getting loads of arguments with Americans when I'm there. They'll be, especially in Texas, they'll be like, I can just picture what it'll be like. But, I'm really easygoing and I don't have any kind of political affiliations with any of this stuff. I just find that a bit immature. So it'll be funny talking to people about it, especially ones that are, like full on red, full on blue, like you've got the like full on right and left and all that kind of stuff that I just don't buy into. And just listening to them because they'll probably be trying to tell me things or assuming things about England. So that'll be kind of funny. Because I'll have experienced both, obviously, so I'll know exactly what it's like in England and what it's like in America. So, that'll be interesting. But the fact of the matter is, I'm moving the business. I'm not. yes, I'm moving, but it's not just for personal reasons. It's the main thing is I'm moving the business over there. I've actually got to liquidate it over here to do it. So I'm actually going to be Talking Bass will not be a business anymore from X date, and it's going to be American after that. So I actually, so the irony of all this is that I actually spoke to me and the wife. We were staying in Notting Hill in London for our anniversary about 3 years ago. It was the year before COVID. So we were staying in this hotel, and actually one of the guys that was staying in this hotel was from Texas, and we got chatting to him, and he owns like a building company or something. I think he was pretty rich. And he was saying, "Oh man, you need to come over to Texas." And he was, and at the time we had no thoughts on moving to the States. And I wish I'd have kept his card now, because he gave me his business card, and I just threw it in the bin. And now it'd probably be quite handy being able to get in touch with him. Tommy G says, weather in Texas is not good. Well, it's better than it is here. I don't mind hot weather. I know that, their idea of cold over there is hilarious. But, obviously we'll have to put up with hurricanes and stuff like that. But I don't mind that. I used to spend a lot of time out in tropics. So I know which much more tropical than Texas. And that dealing with very heavy rainfall and stuff like that, and so I don't mind all that. I don't mind rain as long as it's warm. Do you know any? Do you know any? It's gone down again. Ugh. I keep having to scroll back up through the comments. Might have to pop in on my 2 weeks off just to pick your brains. Yeah, if I'm around, just get in touch. Just email me. I'm busy a lot, but do you know Mark King? No, but he lives about a mile in that direction. He lives in maybe I shouldn't say it. I know where he lives. He lives in a place called Alveston Garden Village. That's just he frequents the pub that's next door to my in-laws. Place I won't say it because just in case there's people on here, but it's in a place called Newchurch. But his kids went to Newchurch Primary, and no, I've met him, but not on the Isle of Wight. I've met him about 3 times, but always at the London Bass Show, and every time he's been absolutely hammered. But I've never met him on the island. He doesn't even know I'm from the island, but I know loads of people that know him really, really well. So it's I'd like to meet him. But it's quite difficult getting to meet him. I'd like to get an interview with him, but it's proving to be harder than you would think, considering he lives 2 miles in that direction. Back up the line. A couple of miles away in South Houston. Okay. Oh, God, it keeps... Probably me talking about the movement over to the healthcare thing has probably just inspired everybody to start arguing. I'm having to go up through loads and loads of comments. Right. Someone, and then it moved. Someone had been... I need to do something about this damn... comments thing because it's almost unbearable. Do you know any good bass tutors on the Isle of Wight apart from yourself, of course? No, I don't. I'm not that in with the music crowd. Well, I know through my wife. My wife's a singer, so she knows loads of people. But and I know a few of the guys. We have a meet-up every week. There's like a few of us that I know from the boats when I used to work for P&O. And there's a few other musicians. Rupert, that does the drumming on my 25 bass riff challenge that everybody thinks looks like Walter White. He's a really good session drummer from Ride, and he lives just down near, right in the centre. Actually, I go around sometimes to jam with him and that. He played on all the Lighthouse family stuff. He's played with Cher and Diana Ross. and a bunch of people. So we all have a bit of a meet-up every week. And so they're only people that I really know around here. All I know about the UK is that it's cold and expensive. I don't know why it is. If you stay long enough, your children will sound like Americans. That's they already do. Just watching blooming YouTube, all they do is watch YouTube, and this. Honestly, their accents. I mean, they've got English accents, but when they start talking, when they start saying things that they've heard on YouTube, it's all in an American accent. Isabel, my middle daughter, she's hilarious, and she can do accents really good. Healthcare is awful, so expensive. Don't know what's a better solution. No, and you'll never end up with the one that we've got because but everybody thinks it's rubbish. Well, in America they think it's rubbish, but it's not. US weather has lots of extremes. Yeah, I know that. Texans will love you. Maybe. I don't know. They're trying to cancel Joe Rogan yesterday. I know. Don't get me started on that one. Texans are generally pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, it does seem to be the case. I mean, I know a lot of Americans, obviously, and I do go over there quite a lot. So, I've always really enjoyed it. I've never found anybody to be really... Yeah, to be honest, all Americans that I've ever met have been really... Have always been a lot more pleasant than the average kind of UK... us from UK, because we're all miserable as sin. All, like, really cynical. NHS is lacking. When I'm rich and famous for some reason, I'm going private. Well, I mean, it is lacking in certain elements, but there's, from what I can see, all of the different healthcare systems around the world seem to have issues. Yeah, that's the thing. Richard's saying be prepared to pay a lot. I mean, when I've looked at how much it's actually going to cost me, I'm like, man, this is just ridiculous, considering that. And I know that they're all like, oh, yeah, well, they'd have to put taxes up. And it's like, well, you're right. That's your problem right there. You guys are paying way more tax than you think. Until I looked at moving to America, I was under the impression that you had lower taxes than us. And that one of the reasons that everybody moaned about the healthcare thing is that, it'd be an add-on on the tax and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm realizing that you guys pay tons of tax. It's like you're taxed to the... Like, we don't. We do to some extent with certain things. But, I mean, it's not like people... and I've got a business, right? I do pay a lot of tax per year. And... but I'll be paying more in the States. A lot more. I already know that. I've already looked into it. Do you know David Icke and the Lizard People? No, but he does live... Matt might, that's there in Ryde, because he does live in Ryde. I know where he lives. And according to him, everybody around here is just... It's just full of paedophile rings and Freemasons. But yeah, he just lives up the road. He's the local nut that seems to have got a worldwide audience all of a sudden. You have to teach them about your culture and the misconceptions. Yeah, I mean, because I don't have any kind of bias with any of these things. I'm so unbiased. I think it helps that I've traveled a lot and seen a lot of the world. And so I don't kind of have these weird biases that people get with. I'm not patriotic in the slightest, certainly not to the UK. And obviously I won't be able to be that patriotic to America because it's not my country. So I've never had any of that kind of, nationalist kind of element to me because I've just spent most of the last 20 years, certainly, out of the country, just in other countries. And it's, it kind of opens your eyes to a lot of things, good and bad. I have opinions on a lot of those things. But then again, opinions don't really mean anything, do they? Do you sell your own guitar straps? I just nearly said Gestapo. Do you sell your own guitar straps? No, not like Scott does. He's got his one strap. No, I just use these Levy leathers. I thought about it for a while, but as you all know, I know Scott very well, and I remember the week that he was releasing his, is it one strap? I remember the week he was releasing it, and we went, there were a bunch of us, we went for a curry, and I stayed over at his house actually that night, and we had a big long chat about it, and imagine that, me and staying over at Scott Devine's house. So we were chatting about it, and he was telling me about what it takes to actually get merchandise like that off the ground. The fact it was created in this particular country, you had to have it all shipped over to this other place, and man, it was a real nightmare of a situation. He never talks about it, but I do know how hard it was for him to get that thing off the ground, and I was like, man, I ain't doing that. Tommy says, oh no, that was the wrong one. Charlie says, you won't know what that is, will you, most of you Americans? Oh man, flying up the comments. Does your wife have a teaching degree so she can teach English online? No, she doesn't. She doesn't have any degrees. She left school. As soon as she left school, she became a professional musician, and that was that. So she's been a singer all her life. She's very good as well. I always say to people when they ask about her, I'm like, well, she's better at singing than I am at playing bass. So, but she hates it when I say that. Take my vocabulary lesson for Mike. You all is the singular, and you all you all is the plural. Miles Davis played Isle of Wight concert in '69. Yep, and my father-in-law was there, watching it free from up on the embankment. Yeah, we still have the Isle of Wight concert every year. Although I never go. I mean, I've been twice, but that was only because my friend was headlining in a place with Biffy Clyro, and so he was playing there. So he got me in for free. So so that was the only reason I was there. Apart from that, I never bothered going. It's just down the road. I mean, you can hear it from the house sometimes if the wind's right. Will Mark start teaching us with a Texas accent in a few years? No, my accent's here to stay. Like I say, I've travelled quite a lot, and I've been around people with different accents. Like even here, like on the Isle of Wight, they're all like this down here. Hey, nipper, it's all like that. And I'm from Yorkshire, so I talk like this all the time. And I mean, I try and tone it down for the videos, obviously. When I first started doing them, I was a bit more Yorkshire, and I've kind of slowly tried to tone it down a bit because we all talk like this up in Yorkshire. If you watch Game of Thrones, Jon Snow, that's what my accent is basically. Are you going to attend NAMM in Anaheim? Maybe, it depends, because I've got to go over to the States this month. I don't know if I'm going to go again, later on. Right, I'm going to go in a minute because I'm starving. I was nearly Canadian. Andy says, I think Matt could be a proud honorary Canadian. My mum and dad emigrated to Vancouver a year before I was born. So from that angle, I think it's likely I was possibly conceived in Vancouver. But then they came back. So I nearly was. I do love Canada. I've spent quite a bit of time over there. My uncle lives in Canada. And I'd also like to move. Australia is one of the places that I really like. That and New Zealand. And Sydney's one of the places that every time I go there, I'm like, man, I could stay here. I just love it. But different strokes for different folks, isn't it? It's like different places, are good for different people. Would love to go to New Orleans. Yeah, I've been in New Orleans a few times, and I've been there when it's been what do you call it? Spring break, is it, or whatever it is, when everybody goes nuts and all the girls are taking all the tops off or whatever, and with all them stupid things that you put around your neck. I've been in the middle of that. I didn't even realize it was happening when I landed, and then I went out down on whatever it is it Bourbon Street? I went down there, and I was like, man, what is going on? Oh, I threw up that night. Don't want Mark to turn into SBL. Nah, it's never going to be. It's very different. Start talking, singing, yeah. Is there a way to give you a tip? What, like a tip, like money? Not on here. I mean, no, not really. Just buy a course. What do you think of the Beatles documentary? Yeah, really good. I haven't done the third episode yet. Just the first two. I know that, if you're not a Beatles fan and or a musician, if you're not a musician or a Beatles fan, I can imagine it being boring as hell for people. But the thing I like about it the most is just that fly on the wall, watching them create those songs and the rehearsals and all of that. The boring stuff for me is the best bits. Jeff's been in Texas for 40 years and don't have a Texas accent. Where did you come from, Jeff, before that? Kai Yim, I bought your slap courses. Will I get download links? The one that you sent me doesn't work. The download links, what, for all the lesson material? It's on the front page of the course. When you go into the course and there's like all the list of all the lessons and stuff, there should be some download links there. One of them will be for a Dropbox thing where you can go in and either view them or download them from there. Or there's a zip file, so you download that and then, you have to extract them from there. Don't bother doing it on mobile. I'd always use desktop if you're going to be doing any of that stuff, downloading any of the things. This is something over the past 9 years with Talking Bass that I've had the most problems with, because some people don't know how to extract zip files. And if you're going to send multiple files, you have to zip them. So some people don't know what to do with that. Then some people don't know what to do when they go into a Dropbox folder. So you have all these different issues with all these things. So that's why I've got like both of those there. But if you're trying to do it on mobile, forget it. Apple do not want you downloading stuff, basically. And even Android, I mean, they just don't have operating systems that work well with downloading stuff like you would on a desktop, either on OS or OS X or Windows. Who's the worst celebrity musician you've met personality-wise? And you can't say Scott Divine. No, Scott's got a great personality. We're good friends. Personality-wise, well, I don't know, because I get on with everybody. I've never really met any. I'm trying to think of people that I've backed, but I wouldn't say, because it's not really very appropriate, is it? There's some guy that's a real dick. Have you met Adam Neely? Yeah, we did the interview. Have you not seen the interview on the website? Go into the interviews. He's there. We did that. But I've met him. I met him at NAMM. I remember talking. There's a lot of those guys that are on the. When I first started talking bass, and I was sort of, sort of doing stuff at that point. Adam had not really. Well, Adam did have a YouTube channel, but he wasn't very big at that point. And I remember him being on Talkbass and us chatting a few times on there. And then gradually he got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, and I always kept in touch. Same with Josh Fosgreen. He used to do ships at the same time as me out of Southampton. So we got Pally, and then he started doing well. Discover Double Bass. If you've ever been to Discover Double Bass, Jeff Chalmers that does that. I've known him forever. Him, Scott, and me, we're all from Leeds. Scott's actually originally from Carlisle, so that doesn't really count. Zoltan Dukaney, if you ever see him on doing any of his stuff, he's actually a bass teacher at Leeds, so I know Zoltan. There's a bunch of those guys. We're all kind of pally. And, trade shows, you all kind of meet up. But Scott's the one that I'm probably closest to simply because I know him from way back. So much so that I actually asked Scott if he could det for me when my daughter was born, because I was due to be going out on a cruise. I was doing a world cruise in 2013, and my daughter was born on the 2nd of January, and I'd already got it was already booked in for the 4th, and we didn't know if she was going to be late. And I thought, man, I don't want to be, Jem's giving birth to Abigail, our little one, and then I have to leave halfway through to go get on this boat, So I'd already given Scott a heads up and says, "Look, can you det for me?" But he was too busy. It was just as SPL was starting to take off, so he just was too busy. Have you ever met Marcus Miller? No, I've not. I don't think. I've met Billy Sheehan quite a few times. I meet Marcus Miller in Cork Island and was tasked with delivering a message from Lee Ritenour. That's random, isn't it? In your courses, do you critique your students' bass recordings? No. But I am, because we don't have that in there, but I am going to start. Actually, I might as well mention it. At the moment, because I run everything myself and it's a nightmare. I've got to get more people in to do things. But I might be getting a community manager that's, believe it or not, it might be Ellen that did the interviews. She might be doing more things in the forums and all that stuff, because I really need to be involved in there, but I'm just so busy all day, every day, that I can't do it. So I need to get people sort of doing stuff in there, and running challenges in there and all those kind of things. So one of the things I want to do is have challenges where people, or just have, riff of the week where people can record it, put it on the forums and stuff, and then I'll kind of critique it. So that's a thing that I really want to get up and running. The hoods of Houston are pretty dangerous. Yeah, I've seen that, but I'll be out in the good old suburbs. So I'll be avoiding it. Jeff lives in one, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of used to going to some pretty dangerous places anyway around it, so it doesn't bother me that much. I mean, some of the places I've ended up in South Africa have been pretty hairy, like Durban and Johannesburg and Cape Town. I've had some funny experiences there. Walter runs a software company. If I can help out, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for that. Cool. All right, then, everybody. I better get off. Can you talk more about the new course you have coming up in the next few weeks? I did that for about 20 minutes at the start of the thing. So when I've turned this off in a couple of seconds, I'll be putting the video. I'll be linking to it in the Talkingbass Live page in the website. So if you look on the menu, you'll see Talkingbass Live, and you'll be able to. It'll be embedded there, so you can watch the whole thing. And you'll see everything about the course then. All right, then, everybody. Thanks for coming along. I'll do this again hopefully next week. And hopefully, will I be able to do it next week? Yes, I will. So I'll do it next week. And let's see how many people we had. Yep, we had quite a lot of people. And I will see you all next week. See you later. Bong.